This is a new era of education unity here. DPS, CD, and the charters working together to make sure we keep every child that we can educated in the city of Detroit. So welcome to this announcement. As I think we've talked about before, last February, I hosted a meeting in which I invited School Board President Iris Taylor, Dr. Vitti, and the operators of the charters in the city of Detroit to come together, and we spent 2 or 3 hours in a pretty candid conversation. And what I said to the group that night was, as I've said several times, is I don't think the mayor of Detroit ought to have a role in running the schools, either charter schools or DPS CD. But what was happening wasn't working. And what we talked about that day is we have nearly 200 schools in the city of Detroit between DPS, CD, and charters. We have 118,000 children, and despite having 200 choices, 32,000 of those children get up and go to school every day somewhere outside the city. Sometimes it's suburban public schools, sometimes it's suburban charter schools, but what that said to me is what we're doing isn't working. And it's just a matter of time before those families who are taking their children to school outside the city start to say, why am I still living in the city? And so what I said that day was this. The legislature shot down our attempt to try to organize to deal with this, but there's no legal reason we couldn't form our own community education commission. And I said that day to both DPS, CD, and the charters, I'm not going to do this unless you're strongly in favor of it. This is not going to be a case where the mayor is attempting to push in where the efforts are not appreciated. But if you want, here is the way that we'd structure it. We would have a community education commission, and our first order of business in my mind was to establish a bus loop in Northwest Detroit. And we looked at a lot of different possibilities. And at this point, I want to thank Ellie Savitt from our staff, who has been coordinating this from the beginning. Ellie, thank you for all that you've done. And so Tanya Allen and the Skillman Foundation came in right away and said, if you want to do this, we'll contribute. And we said, what if Skillman put in a third of the cost of the transportation, the city put in a third of the cost of our public transportation funds, and the schools participated, put in a third of the cost. And we ran loops among the schools there. We didn't know at the time how many would do it, but just in the area of Detroit that we were talking about, you've got the maps in your packets. Hopefully we passed out the packets. Have we passed out the packets? Okay, who are the packets for? Okay, but have they been passed out? Okay, they have been passed out. All right, you guys are giving me blank looks. So basically, it's roughly from Fenkell to 8 Mile, roughly from Southfield to Livernois. The interesting thing is, we have several K-8 schools in that zone who, by the statewide testing standards, have higher test scores than the schools in the suburban districts where children are being bused for 30 or 45 minutes. I said, part of our problem is, people aren't aware, part of our problem are transportation issues. But what if you created a loop, which we're now calling the goal line? Get on and learn is the goal line that's going to operate in this Northwest Detroit neighborhood. We're going to run 4 buses that are going to run in 2 different directions. They'll connect up 10 schools, and you've got the route, the goal line route is up there. 4 charter schools, 6 DPS CD schools. You get to the school closest to your house, and you now have 10 choices as a parent, whether you have a car in your family or not. Every family in that part of the city has 10 choices of schools. And then Dr. Vitti said, our problem isn't just the school itself, our problem is after school programs. And we said, well, we've got the Northwest Activity Center. You're sitting here, the largest recreation program we have in the city, right in the middle of the loop. What if we ran quality after-school programs in this building so that as a parent, if you got off work at 5 o'clock and your child got out of school at 3, your child could get on the goal line and ride from school to the Northwest Activity Center where they'd have supervised child care with help with homework and the like, and then at 5 o'clock could get on the goal line and ride back to the school where they started. Could we do that? And so there's been a whole lot of meetings with the folks up here to iron out those details. And at this point, everybody now has signed the agreement. We're all in together. These buses are going to run from 6:30 to 9 in the morning, 2:30 to 6:30 in the afternoon. They're going to serve the 10 schools in the after-school program. And Beth Niblock, America's finest IT director, assures me that we are going to have a system that when your child gets on the bus and swipes onto the bus with their card, you as a parent will get a text that said your child got on the bus. After school, when your child gets off at the Northwest Activity Center and they swipe off, you'll get a text, your child's at the Northwest Activity Center. And when they get on to head back to their home school, you'll get another text, your child's on their way back home, to give reassurance to parents where their children are going as far as being on the goal line. And so there will be billboards up, you can see them behind me, in the next week or two throughout Northwest Detroit, letting folks know that this part of the city is a goal line neighborhood. And we hope, if this works as well as we expect, we'll repeat it. But think about what we have done now in Northwest Detroit if you are a family with children. We think we have created one of the great areas in Michigan to raise families, because it means that you as a parent have 10 choices of K-8 schools that's available in your neighborhood. You have access to quality after-school programs in a safe, secure environment. And if your child is in high school, they've got access to summer jobs, and Grow Detroit's Young Talent is going to hire 8,000 kids in the summer. You know, if you're in Detroit, you're going to have a summer job for your child. And when your child graduates from a public or charter high school in the city of Detroit, you've got 2 years of college guaranteed to be paid for at community college, or if you've got a 3.0 and a 20 on your ACT, 4 years at any one of 12 public universities that you get accepted to. So we can say to families now, you move into a goal line neighborhood. You've got options at K-8, you've got after-school programs, you've got summer job programs, and you've got college tuition guaranteed. Can we create a climate where families want to be? And so our role at the Community Education Commission is going to be promote the goal line. We will have major events, but each of the 10 individual schools will promote themselves. They'll do their own recruiting in their own methods, but I'm quite certain all of them will be featuring the fact that they are a goal line school. And the one promise they've all made me is that none of them will say a bad word about each other. What they do to compete against the other cities is up to them, but we are going to unify to try to keep our children in our own neighborhoods. And at this point, I'd like to announce the 11 members of the Community Education Commission, Dr. Nikolai Vitti, Ralph Bland, the head of New Paradigm, Tanya Allen, the head of the Skillman Foundation, Marcia Lewis, a teacher at DPSCD, Rachel Ignagni, a teacher at a charter school, Nate Walker from the American Federation of Teachers, Tafari Brent, a community activist from Detroit 300 and Goodwill, Sharita Smith from the Grandmont Rosedale Neighborhood Association, Matt Simoncini, recently retired as CEO of Lear Corporation, and Vanessa Kessler, an employee of the Michigan Department of Education, who is also going to be our partner. This Community Education Commission, which is a blend of private citizens and teachers, a blend of DPSCD and charter, will be chaired by one of Detroit's greatest champions of children. For 20 years, she's run Franklin Wright Settlements, creating opportunities for our young people. And at this point, I'd like to introduce the chair of the Community Education Commission, Monique Marks. Monique?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon. Again, I'm Monique Marks, CEO of Franklin Wright Settlement, and I have been there since 1997. And the greatest part about my job is I get to make a footprint in every young person I meet. Isn't this an awesome day when we could bring a dream team like this group behind me together to do something proactively for our children in Detroit? So I understand that this took a lot of work to get done, but we're here today. So we should celebrate that. We should celebrate the idea that a collective has come together proactively to make a difference in the lives of our children. I get to see children every single day struggling. I get to see parents every single day struggling. It's going to be nice to be able to offer an alternative to what they've had so far. It's going to be awesome for me to have a resource, another resource, to say to parents, hey, look, we're creating a loop in the northwest side of Detroit. And by the way, I saw the director of this facility. Where did he go, Ron? I always try to say, hey, hi, job well done. By the way, I grew up in this community. I also learned how to play baseball in that field out there. Went on to play in high school. This is a great community center. And so our kids will be shuttled here right after school. And they'll have things like swimming, arts and crafts, mainly educational enhancement, to enhance what's already happening at the wonderful schools that they attend. I don't know how you can ask for more. Transportation and free after-school programming is going to make a difference in the lives of parents that don't get off work till 5 and kids get out of school at 3. It's gonna make a difference when they get here and they have something nutritious to eat, to fill that gap between 3 and 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. I think it's an awesome initiative. When they asked me to come on board, I was thinking, this is awesome. Is this real? Is this really gonna happen? And so I took a lot of time to pray about it and meditate and think about how my role and this team's role and this wonderful group of people they brought together to make a difference in the lives of our children, I got just ecstatic, and I can't stop talking about it. So I want to say to you all today, we're asking for your support. We're asking that you get the word out. We're asking that you give it a chance and be very, very positive about an initiative that's coming from the heart of the people. There's no blind motives. It's just individuals that's tired of seeing Detroit kids go outside of Detroit for education that's not even as good as what we can offer them. So I'm asking you all to sincerely think about getting behind it and holding it up and saying, okay, this initiative could be very positive. It's very bold, as a matter of fact, to bring all these people together and say, we can do this, yes, we can for our children, and put all our differences aside. I'm asking that that happen. This team is asking that that happen, that you give us a chance. And so without further ado, this guy came all the way to Florida to help us get to where we need to be. Florida, think about that. We still have winter. Yesterday it felt like winter, right? We have hard, cold, harsh winters. He gave that up to come and fight for our children. I want to introduce to you a man that I admire, that I think is going to make a difference for our children if we work together. Dr. Vitti.
I'll make it work. Good morning, everyone. Let me begin by deeply thanking the mayor. Mayor Duggan continues to actively problem solve and collaborate in recognition that as we rebuild the city, that cannot be done without stronger education. And time again, regardless of the initiative, regardless of the problem, there's just a natural, authentic problem-solving process to get it right and get it better, to put aside politics and to problem-solve collaboratively to make a difference for children in our public schools and all public schools throughout Detroit. So this is yet another initiative clearly identifying that ability to problem solve it and make a difference. I'm excited about today's announcement because this is an opportunity to promote collaboration in a problem that is uniquely faced by traditional public schools and charter schools. And as I've said over and over again, we as a district are willing to collaborate as long as our interest as a public school organization is intact, and this represents that opportunity. The fact that 30,000 students are leaving Detroit for schools outside of Detroit is a challenge that we all face as traditional public schools and as charter schools. So it's just natural for us to work together to try to overcome that challenge, especially in a way that makes economic or financial sense for the school district. This bus loop and the after-school component that's linked to it is actually a lower cost for us as a school district to have an individual student ride on this bus loop than the transportation that we're currently providing. It also allows us to identify 6 schools that we have a high level of confidence with our principals in these 6 schools. These are some of our schools with stronger facilities. Each of these schools will have one-to-one device deployment to have interactive TV monitors in each of our schools. These schools have some of our stronger programming, from arts to foreign language, and even yoga and other activities that are happening during the day and after school. So at the end of the day, this is about equity and access. If we have an opportunity to provide an easier route to school, an easier route home to school, and an after-school component, the question has to be asked, why not? And that's what the question we asked, why not? Let's forget about the politics of the past. Let's forget about the politics of the future and say, what makes sense for children in Detroit? And how do we make this right so that our interests are intact, that it's cost effective, and we learn from this as a first-year pilot as a school system? So this is why I decided to recommend to the board, and the board ultimately agreed on a majority vote. So we're very excited about partnering with the city, partnering with charter schools to see if this pilot for us will make a difference in retaining students in Detroit now and in the future. And if it does, then we look to scale this so that we can bring more students back to our schools within the city. As far as the commission is concerned, we have always been for accountability in DPSCD, but we do believe that that accountability has to be fair, reliable, and consistent, and done by practitioners who are facing the day-to-day challenges and opportunities of serving our children in Detroit. This commission brings together those practitioners or the leaders that are dealing with that day-to-day work together based on state statute to define what accountability should look like in Detroit. So not only can we hold each other accountable, but we can share best practices, we can leverage improvement across our schools, and we can ensure a quality education for every child in Detroit. I'm excited that it's being done in Detroit and not done by those outside of Detroit as we create stronger accountability measures. Thank you, and at this point, I'd like to bring up Ralph Bland from New Paradigm.
Good morning. Can we give Mayor Duggan another applause? So this is the first time in Michigan that I know an initiative that you're bringing 2 different organizations together. But I need your help. So all the journalists, reporters out there writing down, taking the story down, let's help us change the narrative. It's not charter school students, DPSCD students, it's Detroit students. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about every day, the Detroit students. So please do us a favor and help us change the narrative. We have to get it right this time. So as far as the commission, we're getting the right people on the bus, the right people to take the right action to equal success for Detroit students. And we just can't say enough about that. Kids are kids. So we have to solve the issues. New Paradigm for Education believes in the holistic approach. So the loop system keys right in to making sure the whole child is being educated. So let's just take, for an example, let's take a parent that has to leave work, pick up their child, somewhere in there, buy something for them to eat, take them to the activity, then get back to work. Now that's realistic, and that takes an hour. So by a child being able to get on the loop and going to the Northwest Activity Center to go to an activity and getting a snack or something to eat, that probably would take less than 20 minutes. So number one, we're supporting parents. Number two, what about that child that takes at least an hour to ride the bus to get home? But on the loop, it'll be a shorter amount of time. So now we're engaging students and having a larger impact. And the community is doing that together. Safe transportation, reliable, and we're going to get students on time to school daily. So that's the thing, and that's the narrative that we need to be talking about. That's important. Remember, kids first, and I'm gonna say this again, help us change that narrative. Detroit students. Thank you. I'd like to bring to the mic next Kyle Smitley from Detroit Achievement Academy and Nicole Starworth, board member at McDowell Prep.
Good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank you, Mayor Duggan, and your team for your leadership and your tireless efforts in working toward increasing the well-being and access to educational opportunities for children and families living within the city of Detroit. My name is Nicole Wells Stallworth. I have the distinct pleasure and honor of serving as president of the board at McDowell Preparatory Academy, which rests in the heart of Northwest Detroit, not far from where we are today, just a short drive up Myers at Outer Drive. McDowell's mission and goal is to foster within its scholars the skill and will to achieve their highest aspirations, both academically and in life. We could not be more pleased to partner with the CEC, the Office of the Mayor, the City of Detroit, and the other schools that are represented here today, along with the community stakeholders, to achieve and advance that mission for not only scholars at McDowell, but for all students who are living within Detroit. Our participation in Goal Line means that more scholars would not only have access to McDowell and the other schools that are represented here today, but they would also have access to the critical after-school programs that are so essential in nurturing these children's sense of curiosity, insight within them, new passions, and broaden their horizons by exposing them to a world of new possibilities within the areas of STEM, the arts, and athletics. Detroit's children, as we've all mentioned today, are more than deserving of this level of community collaboration, commitment, and investment in their futures. And I, again, could not be more pleased to be a part of that. On behalf of myself, McDowell, which is a charter school, and our entire team, we are looking forward to making our contribution in being a part of a winning team and also advancing more of Detroit's young scholars towards and beyond the goal line. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kyle Smitley. I'm the founder and executive director of Detroit Achievement Academy, which is on the corner of Outer Drive and Greenfield, so very close to here. I wanted to reiterate everyone's appreciation for Mayor Duggan and his team for his incredible leadership as we've put together what we feel to be an incredibly big deal. There has never been a loop so innovative in Michigan, in Detroit, and we feel really fired up about the opportunities that it will unlock for our students, access to the Northwest Activities Center, but also for all students. For all students to have access to incredible schools within Detroit Public Schools Community District and other charter schools is exciting for a lot of groups of people. So we feel really grateful to be a part of that and to partner. Next, I would like to introduce, who's next, do we know? David Hecker. All right. Thanks.
Good morning. Good morning. I'd like to thank you, Mayor, and everyone up here and in the room for coming together for one reason, and that is what is best for the children of the city of Detroit. I'm David Hecker. I'm president of the American Federation of Teachers Michigan, and I co-chair the Coalition for the Future of Detroit School Children. AFT Michigan is proud to represent teachers and support staff at Detroit Public Schools Community District, as well as educators at 3 Detroit charter schools. The future of our great city depends on the future of its public schools. The city isn't back until the phenomenal change we have seen in downtown and midtown extends throughout our neighborhoods. This means we have strong neighborhood schools that all Detroit families want to have their children attend. We are moving in that direction, and GOAL will play a key role in helping us get there. Linking schools together with this Northwest Activity Center for after-school programming, GOAL will be yet another reason for Detroit families to have their children attend Detroit Public Schools. We believe GOAL will achieve its goals, and as it does, we look forward to its expansion from a pilot to a program that touches all parts of our city. We have a strong elected and empowered school board doing solid work, and a DPS CD moving forward to further enhance the education students receive. We have charter schools committed to educating Detroit's children. We have committed and talented educators dedicating their careers to Detroit's children. Women and men who go the extra miles to do all they can for the students of Detroit. The Community Education Commission will complement this good work. And AFT Michigan, we appreciate being part of this work, enhancing the education of our children and moving our great city forward. I'd now like to introduce two of the most important people in the room, two moms, Tamika Langford and Jametta Lilly from the Detroit Parent Network.
Hello, good evening. I would just like to say how I'm so excited for the program, because I was one of those moms who had to take that hour break, try to get your kid to the home or to the next stop. So with this program, it allows for me to have a sense of peace that my son will be picked up, he's taken somewhere safe, and he's still getting extra educational needs that he needs for school. So with that being said, I think it's a great program. I hope everyone is on board with it, because we need to get the kids back in the city. Because I have stepped outside the city, but it did not work. Because DPS is a great school system. Regardless of what people say, it's good. And so I would like to just say that let's get on go with the kids, and that's get on and learn. Yeah, that's right. Let's be excited.
That's right.
Hello, I cannot tell you how delighted I am to stand next to a parent, because what we have to remember, as all of us here know, is that we have a fabulous city. But the future of our children is going to depend on parents like this who remind us that children don't exist in a vacuum. They grow up in families, and those families grow up in neighborhoods, and those neighborhoods need a city and the infrastructure of committed, caring, and talented collaboration, which you see here. We see collaboration from foundations, from the city, from others, but most importantly, we now have collaboration from parents. I am delighted to serve as the new CEO of the Detroit Parent Network, and we have over 16 years of walking lockstep with parents to inform them, build them up, give them resources so they in turn can be the leaders in being champions of their children. So what you're going to see in this site, and we're so excited about this, is that not only will there be fabulous after-school programs for children, but there'll be a network of support for grandparents, for dads who are single and trying to struggle with that, for people who are trying to make a decision about then what really is this PK stuff? What is this third grade legislation? How do I become a more empowered champion for my children? That's the kind of thing that the goal line is going to facilitate. So we are delighted with the Detroit Parent Network to be a part of this initiative and to make sure that our parents' voices are heard and that they in turn help our city be that gleaming place that we know all of our children need so they can bloom. Thank you.
Next, we'll introduce Ms. Tanya Allen.
Okay, all of you who are ready for the talking to stop, I just want to let you know I'm the last person. So you're welcome. All right, I want to just first start off and also reiterate with David Hecker that I had the privilege of serving as one of the co-chairs for the Coalition for the Future of Detroit School Children. And this is an awesome and amazing day to be here before you to see the recommendations that came out of a community coalition that decided it was going to take on education and set forth the recommendations and a path forward for us to make education, a high-quality education, a viable option for our school children. So I'm just excited to be here to see this work come to fruition. I'm extraordinarily grateful to our mayor, Michael Duggan for his work, his leadership to step in the gap when we have such a dispersed school system where we have Detroit Public Schools and many charter operators. There isn't a single person that we can look to who is in charge of all of the children in Detroit. And I'm so grateful that the mayor as well as Monique Marks raised their hand to say that we will be responsible for all of the children. And that is just an awesome and amazing thing to have. Because our kids don't get better if we don't do better. And that's why I'm just really grateful that this announcement really marks, in my opinion, a new era for our city. It's what I like to call cooperation, meaning it's both cooperation and competition. We need to cooperate, and we need to bring the best practices and the best services to our students and to our families. And I think you see with Goal Line that it is a prime example of how we can cooperate. And we still are going to have some competition, but the competition ought not be schools fighting each other, but the competition today starts with us fighting and competing to provide the highest and greatest quality of education for all of our children. That's what they deserve. Lastly, I'm so excited about this because I think it is a signal to our community, to the parents and the students who are leaving Detroit to go to other school districts, that this is the place that you can attend. Your children can come to these schools and get a high-quality education. It also is a signal to the parents who have stayed in Detroit Public Schools and the charters in Detroit to tell them that they too will be supported. And that is the message that we are going to have to affirm over and over again, that this city is a great city, and this city will be excellent at delivering the highest quality education and the greatest place to raise your children. And that will be our true signal of a recovery, is when we can make that promise and completely fulfill it. And the Skillman Foundation is a proud sponsor of this. We felt like it was a no-brainer to be able to contribute to this work, as well as other funders who have supported the effort, including the Detroit Children's Fund. We are grateful for the opportunity to provide young people with transportation, with quality outreach to parents so that parents know what choices they have available to them, quality after school for children so that we know that our children are getting access to everything that they need that will ensure that they can be ready for college, be ready for a career, but be ready to be contributing community members. And that means solving problems, but also ushering us into this new era of technology. So I am just grateful to be here, and I would implore you, as Ralph Bland did as well, help us change the narrative. Our children deserve it. We deserve it as a city. There are so many good things here in this city, and it's great to celebrate them. Thank you.
All right.